What will be the fate of the Freys in the Winds of Winter? And how will the Brotherhood without banners commit their own marital massacre? This is the second Red Wedding. By the beginning of the Winds of Winter, the House of Frey is in dire straits. The infamous Red Wedding has sullied their reputation, not just because they massacred the Starks and the Northerners, not just because they betrayed their fellow River Lords, but because they broke the ancient custom of guest right. Sure, they've been rewarded by the Lannisters, a few marriage alliances here and there, Riverrun granted to Aemon Frey, but the small folk are sharpening their pitchforks, fierce wolves are prowling the woods, river lords are dreaming of revenge, and outlaws are tightening their nooses. The most organised underground resistance against the Freys are the Brotherhood without banners. They were initially formed by the resurrected Beric Dondarrion as a fellowship of outlaws fighting against the Lannisters in the Riverlands. Beric sought to dispense justice, giving every prisoner a fair trial. But the Brotherhood has rotted into something else, something darker. Lord Beric gave his life to resurrect the murdered Catelyn Stark, who arose as Lady Stoneheart, a twisted vessel of hatred and revenge. Those disgusted by her tactics have left, but many have stayed, driven by their hatred for the Freys. Under the Hangwoman's leadership, the outlaws have already hanged 3 Freys: Peter Pimple, Merritt, and Ryman. If you want a rundown of every single Frey, by the way, check out this video. But surely the Brotherhood without banners have greater ambitions than a few swinging Freys. As Lemoncloak states, she wants her son alive, all the men who killed him dead. She wants to feed the crows, like they did at the Red Wedding. Lord Warder destroyed an ancient moral custom. Why shouldn't the Brotherhood fight fire with fire? But to enact another Red Wedding, there has to be a new wedding. As I mentioned earlier, House Frey is rewarded with 3 marriage proposals. Lancel Lannister to Amari Frey, Davon Lannister to an unknown Frey woman, and the Lannister bastard Joy Hill to an unknown Frey bastard. Lancel Lannister has already married the promiscuous Gatehouse Amy to secure Castle Darry for the Lannisters, but the faith-pilled Lancel refuses to consummate the marriage, sleeping instead in the Sept, and then he abandons his wife to join the warrior's sons. Joy Hill, meanwhile, the bastard daughter of Jaerion Lannister, is too young to get married yet, which leaves Sir Davon Lannister's upcoming wedding as the perfect target. But who will he marry? Edwin's Walder, Pera, White Walder, Rhaella, Hostella, Marissa, Cynthia, Tysane, Lothar's Walder, Emberlai, Lyanna, Marianne, Defdella, Arwen, and Shirai are all too young to marry. Fair Walder, Zia, Kyra, Alex, Amarai, Sarah, and Taita are all of age, by Westerosi standards at least. However, Davon tells his cousin Jaime that he wants to choose a wife who hasn't been sullied yet. Fair Walder allegedly slept with her cousin Black Walder, Kyra Frey is widowed with children, while Gatehouse Amy is twice widowed and famously sleeps around. That narrows Davon's options to the young Zia, the attractive Alex, the pimply twins Sarah, and the 30-year-old maiden Taita. A wedding with Lannisters and Freys provides the perfect hunting grounds for bloodthirsty outlaws, but the identities of the bride and groom are not as important to the Brotherhood as the location of the wedding. It could take place at the Twins, but will likely occur at Riverrun, as a show of power after the Freys took it back from the Blackfish. Besides, where better to host a Lannister-Frey wedding than a castle run by Aemon Frey and Jenna Lannister? To infiltrate Riverrun will be no easy feat, especially since the paranoid Aemon boasts a 200-man garrison. But we've already seen characters sneak both in and out of the castle. During the War of the Five Kings, Tyrion Lannister launched an unsuccessful plot to rescue Jaime. He hired 4 criminals to pose as peaceful Lannister envoys and ride to Riverrun. They gave up their weapons and armour and were granted freedom of the castle, before snatching Jaime from the cells. One of them, possibly a mummer, imitated Enmuel Tully's voice to trick the guards Enger and Long Lu into raising the portcullis. After the war, and after the siege of Riverrun itself, the Blackfish escaped the castle by having the Watergate portcullis raised below the surface of the river and swimming beneath the spikes. A combination of nighttime trickery and sneaky swimming may help the outlaws, but to get a large number of men inside, they may need to take inspiration from Roose Bolton. During the war, the brave companion Sellsword Company flipped from the Lannisters to the Starks. They brought Roose Bolton and several Northmen into Harrenhal as prisoners, and then released them in the middle of the night to overthrow the Lannister garrison. We may see some of the Brotherhood disguised as Lannister guards and others as prisoners, including Lemoncloak, the current owner of the Hound's helmet, so he may pretend to be Sandor Clegane. But the Brotherhood would need a trustworthy face to persuade the Frey garrison to open the gates in the first place. That trustworthy face is Jaime Lannister. By the end of A Dance with Dragons, Jaime is being taken to Lady Stoneheart by Brienne of Tarth. The Hangwoman may deliver an ultimatum. Jaime must lead the disguised Brotherhood into Riverrun during the wedding and allow them to commit the massacre, and in return, Brienne's life will be spared. So how will the massacre itself unfold? Let's explore the perpetrators and the victims. Lady Stoneheart is not a warrior, but she may be present to witness the mass murder. Those loyal to her include the new Hound, Lem Lemoncloak, Harwin, Jack Be Lucky, Notch, Likely Luke, Mudge, and Beardless Dick. Their numbers may be bolstered by northern survivors of the First Red Wedding, former members of the Tully garrison kicked out by Aemon Frey and forced into the Brotherhood's arms, and outraged peasants with a new fiery obsession. It is said that a new god is emerging in the Riverlands, a Lord of Light, so perhaps the Brotherhood will become even more fanatical. They may even get some highborn help. The fugitive Blackfish may turn outlaw, and several noble hostages from the Red Wedding, such as Patrick Mallister, Mark Piper, and Great John Umber, are to be escorted to King's Landing on Jaime's orders. If they're rescued by the Brotherhood, would they too take part in the slaughter? Finally, the Brotherhood may have allies within Riverrun itself. The outlaw bard Tomo Sevenstrings has infiltrated the castle, potentially both as a spy and an agent of chaos. Maesters must be loyal to their assigned seat, not any specific house, but perhaps Maester Vyman won't abide by such ideas. And we also don't know the current fate of Utherides Wayne, the Riverrun steward. If he's still around, his loyalty to the Freys will be questionable at best. With the Brotherhood inside the castle, the Second Red Wedding can begin. As the centre of attention, there is no way the bride and groom survive the slaughter. It could be that the Freys who took part in the Red Wedding get their comeuppance, like Blackwater and Bastard Walder and Lame Lothar. In contrast, the innocent Freys, such as the good-natured Perwyn, may be caught in the crossfire nonetheless. Lannisters will not be spared either, whether they're Davin's sisters or Jenna herself. Aemon Frey has a prominent apple in his throat, so perhaps the Archer Notch will attempt to skewer it. If the Brotherhood prove especially brutal, they may even butcher young children, such as Aemon's grandsons Tywin and Willem. There may be hanging, there may be burning from the Lord of Light fanatics, and there's no telling what the Unchained Giant of Umber might do. Whether Lord Walder himself attends is up for debate. On one hand, he suffers from gout and is losing his sight and his hearing, so may stay at the Twins. On the other hand, he does travel in a covered litter to spare him from the elements, and seems to take weddings pretty seriously. He could be hanged on Lady Stoneheart's orders, or slashed as she was. Or maybe Sir Duncan the Tool's desire to throw young Walder down a well foreshadows a watery grave for the late lord. What would be the aftermath of a Second Red Wedding? More chaos across the Riverlands? Or a return to order when the rescued Edmure and Roslyn are brought back to Riverrun, and the Tullys once more rule over the Trident? Who do they ally with then? Stannis in the north? Littlefinger in the Vale? Aegon Targaryen in the south? And what is to become of House Frey? A family that large is not destroyed in a single massacre. Okay, ignore the show. That is, of course, if the massacre takes place at all. A second Red Wedding is not guaranteed. The first one was successful because it took the Starks by surprise, but now the Freys have their eyes peeled, and Aemon himself is especially paranoid. Could enough outlaws be smuggled into the castle to overcome a 200-man Frey garrison? And as for Jaime Lannister, would he really allow this to happen? Even if they threaten Brienne's life, even if they lie about their intentions, would he still put his aunt and cousin's lives at risk? And how would he himself survive the massacre? This doesn't feel like a satisfying ending for his character. To be fair, neither do Bricks, but there we go. And finally, we've already had 2 deadly weddings. Is Gurm gonna throw another one at us? I suppose a dark fantasy saga without at least 3 deadly weddings is considered a dull affair. One thing is for certain, revenge in A Song of Ice and Fire is often brutal, and can even be satisfying, but is always destructive to all involved. If the second Red Wedding occurs, it will not be a celebration, but an atrocity. Those deserving will die, yes, but so too will bystanders, women and children, innocents like Perwyn, likeable characters like Jenna and Davin. Lady Stoneheart is the embodiment of destructive vengeance, and another Red Wedding will only create a larger feast for the crows. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to support the channel, and feel free to check out my Patreon for extra goodies, like the Fantasy Haven Discord and exclusive videos. There's also a merch store if you want to grab a shirt or a mug. Links are in the description below. If you want to learn about every single book fray, check out this video on the left. And if you want to see my old Red Wedding 2 collab video with Quinn the GM on his channel, check out this video on the right. Special thanks to my patrons, in particular Alex the Pagan, Caden, Colshot, Devcole, Jack, Itchaboi, and Morphy. See you next time.